Welcome, everyone. And I think
We'll call the Board of Trustees to order and welcome as well. Then go ahead.
okay, and then we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Decent?
I'm sorry?
Decent?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Jean?
He said he will be on call, but late. So he told me this about 10 minutes late.
Ermelin?
Here.
Gemelin?
Here.
Maloney?
Here. Then if we could call for the board.
Rowan?
Cronin is be here at 5:30 or so.
Ermelin?
Hardinger should be on. Is he on?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Ensenal?
Present.
Maloney?
Here.
Violet?
I did not hear nothing from Wyland unless you did. And I heard Zagami cutting his lawn yesterday, but I didn't hear nothing about today.
On item 5, approve minutes of previous finance committee meeting.
I'll make. Second.
Second by James. On the question, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Any public comments? Do we have anybody besides the board members on the computer?
Yes, there's a few people on there. Nobody has raised their hand.
There was no one by phone?
They're online.
Okay. Acknowledge work product transmittals. August budget status report. Questions on that? Did Jess want to make any comments on it?
We have a summary in the packet, a nice narrative. Revenues are on track, a little bit over. We were a little conservative with our interest budget last year, a year ago. The interest rates weren't where they are now. So that line is definitely over. And then everything else seems to be running pretty much on track.
Any questions? Should we acknowledge that all individual or can we do it all three together? Item 8, TIF 1 and TIF 2 detail reports for August. Any questions on that or any comments from staff?
Same as normal. I think we have Weston Avenues in there. Just a lot of payroll. Nothing else that I remember sticks out from there.
The payroll just repeats, right?
Yes.
Payroll has a formula you must use. And then what you can put in there.
Yeah, the salaried people have a percentage of their payroll going to TIF every month. Oh, the other thing, redevelopment resources, we did pay a bill this past month with Kristen.
Item 9, legal detail.
So this is an item that we added from last time. We're just gonna include the month's bill. As you can see, like the invoice description, we worked with Matt Edie with the intercity agreement and the Dominica, and there was a Caribou thing.
Questions on this?
So is this for a month, quarter, or for a year?
That is for that was the check date from August.
It does have year to date, right? I see 23. $28,122.
Yeah.
It's just run from 8/16 to 9/10.
I see, okay.
So it's not year to date. The year to date up on the top, yes. 28,122 we spent in 2023.
Versus 47 and 22.
Yeah, that one's year to date. Yeah,
Versus just up to this date.
correct.
Okay. So could I have a motion to acknowledge items 7, 8, and 9?
Motion to acknowledge 7, 8, and 9.
Second. Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Okay. Now, educational presentation reports, review and discussion of the 2024 budget, general fund and all other assets.
Oh, is it on the agenda? Okay. We have quorum. Can the board approve or acknowledge the work product transmittals also? We did not put this on the board agenda since we expected quorum tonight.
So we need a motion
Motion to acknowledge.
by Ermeling,
Second.
second by Pincinel. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I thought we were going so fast. We got this huge stall before 6. And I thought, oh, wait a minute.
This is where it comes in.
Wait a minute, we're gonna be lucky to start at 6. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so there's not too much going on. So this is one of our first budget meetings. It's just like really a quick overview. I sent out all the detail for all the general fund and all the other funds in plenty of time, hoping everyone got a chance to review it. There are still tweaks, as I said, to be made. But right now, we'll just go give a brief presentation. The budget is a mathematical confirmation of your suspicions. As we all know, the budget is, there's no crystal ball. If we did, we'd all be millionaires. So it's just what we're thinking is going to happen next year. A budget should reflect the values and priorities of our nation and its people. This past year, we did do a strategic planning, and that document should be used when developing a budget to really put the money where your priorities are. One of the tough things with the village here is we've been cut for so many years. I know back in 2010, a 2% reduction in everybody's department. I mean, they carved out that what we're budgeting is pretty much necessities to keep our departments at status quo. But in general, when you're thinking outside the box with your capital projects, your debt service and your utilities, we need to keep in check what are the priorities of the village and its people. So the budget process, staff typically brings a summary of the proposed changes for general fund and a summary of all the other funds. That's this first meeting. We are, to back up for those that are unfamiliar, we send out budget worksheets to staff and we get those budget worksheets back and we put it all in and compile everything. The finance, our major concern is wages and benefits. We try to get those the best that we can, get allocated to all the proper funds, making sure everything is looking pretty good based on past experiences. The village board and the committee review these summaries that we send out and they can drill down into the details that are in the packet and what was emailed out is line by line. There's a ton of detail and we don't expect everyone to dive in if they don't want, but hopefully the summary pages really pique your interest and really get you enough information about what you will be looking at and approving eventually in November. The village has 10 different funds that have wages and expenses allocated to them. Each fund has its own source of revenue to pay for those expenses. First fund I want to talk about is the recycling fund, and that's Fund 18. Refuse recycling fund records refuse, recycling, yard waste, landfill, and it relies on special charges on the tax roll, not tax levy. So yes, it's on the tax bill, but it's not the tax levy. So the board does have decisions if they want to increase or decrease this special charge. We use this charge to cover all the above, including yard side pickup and when waste management comes to your curb. Refuse and recycling is done by a third party. We are in that contract for a few more years yet, and our contractor is Waste Management. Curbside pickup in the fall, your fees. And one thing we want to talk about is possible food waste drop-off. Staff is throwing out an idea of applying for a grant to initiate a pilot program of food waste collection. We talked about this program several years
The
ago.
record show that Shane's got me arrived at 442. No, 441. Go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. So we wanted to bring this forward to the board. We're looking at researching this and working with other people again to see if it is an option for the village. Last year, or when we brought it last time, it was quickly rejected and it was not brought up again. Before we go and make the efforts, we just wanted to see if the board's in the same mind frame that this is not a good program, or is it something that we really want to investigate and look into? There's a grant program. What percentage do they pay on that again?
75%.
So 75%.
Of what? Of
Of the program, the pilot project, or the pilot program. This would be a USDA grant, and they would pay 75% of what we can request between is like 45,000 and like 300,000. It's ridiculous, well, but so they would pay 75% of whatever awarded, and we would have to match it 25%, and it can be in-kind services, it can be staff time, it can be, it's not good to cut a check to someone for 25%.
and then to get the waste product from here to the SUS still.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we didn't
SUS would
really,
charge us.
yeah, we didn't get too involved, or we didn't get too far into discussions with Sue's or American Council Waste because we wanted to first get your feel for this.
Last time, I remember we talked about this, we had a meeting on this. The major concerns was cost to the taxpayer, and the other one was the garbage attracting wild animals. One of the things we wanted to do is upfront, we're gonna obtain a container that is gonna be what they would use at the national parks to keep the bears out. I mean, we're gonna make sure this food stuff is secure, so we're not gonna attract the critters.
The biggest would be the liquids, so that the liquids don't get out. Normally containers let liquids get out.
Yep.
Into the drain. So that would be the biggest one, and then placing it where.
My thought is, and we had talked about maybe, and this is all still conceptual, but maybe putting it on the north side of the property there. But my preference would be to place it on the south side, just because this way I can kind of, during the day, I can kind of monitor it from my office to see how it's going. We'd probably keep it on the outside of the gated area, because otherwise people would not have an opportunity to drop off their food scraps after hours.
It's like are we thinking like a weekly pickup? I'm just trying to remember some of the
So
things.
when we met with Sue's a few years ago, the thought was it'd either be weekly or bi-weekly, would depend on how quickly the container fills up. And so it just depends on how fast it fills up. And then basically, so So we want to try and find some kind of like a bear-proof container, and it would just have a top lid, small enough lid where you can't like throw a garbage bag in there. But I'm looking for something that would hold like I saw some examples where there's a top lid and then there's a side door. And so we'd slide like a 35-gallon cart in there, because that's what Sue's would be working with, is a cart. And this way it will drop your food waste off and it falls right into the cart. But the way Sue's works is they would, when the container is full, they would come here, they'd pick up the filled cart, leave us an empty cart. And so that's how it would be.
So it would start out free to me, no free to the president.
But yeah, it would be part of this whole product.
So, and then eventually would it still be free to me?
Well, so first we want to just test it out and see how it
What kind
works.
of tonnage we got on it?
Yeah, and I guess if it's a good program, we're getting a lot of usage. I mean, at some point there'd probably be some kind of cost, and I suppose maybe out of the recycling fund, because Sue's obviously they have to pay their staff to come and pick these containers up and swap them out and clean. I think when we met with them 2 years ago, they were looking at about $3,000 a year to test it out.
And then they would do whatever, they would put it with their
Things they
grounds
would
and
do,
stuff.
yeah. And
So,
they're the only place in this area that accepts food waste.
but in the meantime, somebody else on this side could start, you never know. Not really something like Sue's,
Oh, yeah.
but some organic farmer or something could do that. So it starts with me at home, instead of putting it down the garbage disposal or the food waste in my garbage can, which is really what we want. We want that one, because the garbage disposal doesn't matter, that gets ground up and then off to the water.
We end up paying more for like, I guess the wastewater charges than the remote metro if it goes through the sanitary sewer. So the sewer utility would see a savings potentially too.
If they didn't put the grinder.
Correct, yep.
I always thought that putting it in there was a good thing, for the fish and the fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. So it all goes in there. I save it somehow in some kind of Tupperware
So
thing
this
in
is
the
another-
refrigerator.
This is also where the grant come into place. So we could buy, through the grant, we can buy those kitchen containers for anybody who wants to participate. We can buy them and give them to those residents as a benefit. And then they would have something that they could keep on top of their counter or under their sink, or whatever, and then when their little pail or whatever fills up, they can put it in there and dump it into the container.
Just,
Yeah.
maybe you talk about it already, but,
We just started talking about making it.
okay, no matter what you do, you're gonna have a problem with the fly and the smell in summertime.
Well, that's why we're looking at, like something similar to like a bear-proof container. And when I talked to, I briefly, corresponded with the person at Sue's, and he said that what they usually do is because they usually just work with people to have like a 35-gallon container that just sits out. And he said that, what they usually do is they just suggest that people use like a bungee cord to hold the lid down so that nothing can get into it. And he said that there's really no odor issues to like their staff, people dumping in there, or just in general.
You know,
But if
I'm
it's-
saying
if
that
it's- if
because if you look at the restaurant,
Mhm.
they put it just in the garbage container. And the garbage container got picked up every week. But it creates a fly and a smell. And it has a lid on it, they don't leave it open. But they still have those problems.
And also with the restaurants and stuff, you're also throwing in more than just the general, so this would just be certain kind of food scraps that can go into there, so you wouldn't be able to eat in there.
We wouldn't be able to put meat in there.
I don't think Sue's accepts meat, so it'd just be more your vegetables, like your breads, like eggs, things like that. Because I think the issue with meat is that it takes longer to break down.
Yes, it does. So if the meat's in there, would they reject that, girl?
I
But still
guess-
charge us?
I guess if they, I guess if there's like a large amount in there, I mean, I'm sure they're not gonna sit there and dig through it to see what's all in there, they're just gonna empty it into their compost pile, and if they start seeing that there's large amounts of meat being thrown in there, then I suppose that would become an issue.
I think the main thing with this, it's gonna be voluntary, so someone's gonna actually have to take the effort to save their food scraps, take the effort to actually come here. And those that actually are interested in wanting to do this, I don't think they're gonna not follow the rules.
Oh, no, it's gonna take a certain person to do these, there's no doubt.
Right.
I don't take this the wrong way, but yeah, I just feel like this is gonna keep coming up. I almost feel like we should try it to show that it may not work.
Sure.
I just think it's an awful lot of work all the way from the start to the finish. You will definitely get some people that'll just be religiously, I'm sure they recycle really good recycle containers. I bet I could get caught not recycling that well. So I hope we never check my garbage, but anyway, I try to do it well, but I'm sure I don't.
Never thought it was gonna handle the waste food from every place. That project never materialized, they didn't do it, or what was the problem?
No, it was, they had talked about the idea of bringing it or allowing people to drop off food waste. So they do have a compost area on their site.
Out on, right.
Yeah, in Regal. I don't think that ever became, or that didn't go anywhere. And so and it doesn't sound like they have any intentions of doing it anytime soon because of the fact that you have to get the special DNR license in order to do it. And, but so they're willing to partner with us and, help us like with education and things
Who the
like
county
that.
is?
Huh?
The county is?
Yeah, the county, yeah. And with this grant, if we're to apply for, you have to have 2 other partners involved, so it could be the county. We could also include, maybe later down the line, the schools, but I figured the county and SUS would be kind of the starting point. Because we just need a place for the food waste to go, because like I said, nobody else accepts it.
And the county won't accept it, you're saying, right?
No, the county does not accept it, all they'll accept is yard waste.
So the gentleman I talked to out there last time, I was out there, I think I told you all that I was out there, I've never been out there before, it's like a different world. But they're in love with you. I mean, your name was just top of the charts all the way, and I just can't imagine that if you wanted something, they would certainly work with you. So, but as a partner, but not as a drop zone.
Yeah, no.
And there's no way that, we've got people that already recycle water on the street. One more place there.
Well, we talked to Dan about the idea of doing that, but unless you could have it monitored, it would probably get used, just like the dumpster that we have out there. And I threw out the idea of, well, we did it up here, maybe we can use some of this grant money to buy some really good security cameras. So you can, really watch it. And so, and anything we buy through the grant is then, this will be ours. So let's say we wanted to do something, or like us buying this container, it's like, well, once we have it, unless we lease it or something, but let's say there's some small equipment that we wanted to buy for this program, and let's say the program doesn't continue, well, we'll still have this equipment if we ever need it for just some other uses.
Do we know ahead of time what's gonna be the grant, or what they're gonna say yes to?
I think we would apply for a certain dollar amount. We would tell them how much we're looking at getting, and then it would be up to them to
I
decide.
mean, I'm just thinking in stages, so like the kitchen thing for a family, the single family home or whatever, you'd probably want, I don't know, 10,000, I'd go way over, so you never have to buy them again. And then you can use it for something else if you want. And then like the container out here or out at Ryan, I'd get 3 of them, and the cameras last for a while, whatever. But I would overdo it a little bit to make sure that we have stuff so it doesn't start costing so much once we get going.
Still are gonna pay 25% of it.
We still have to pay 25 of the grant. Yeah, so
Of
if
the
we do a
grant.
$100,000 grant,
We have to match.
we're
it.
paying 25 grand.
What if we put it at Fuller Street?
Sorry?
What if we put it at Fuller Street next to all the other?
Property.
I understand that, but you have all our recycling there and you have to knock on the door and mother may I just to drop off a cardboard box.
They need to restrict them just to their hours. So we're saying it would be outside of the fenced area so that people can drop off during.
That takes care of your bear control, that takes care of everything, and it already stinks like trash there, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know that they would want, I mean, it would be up to them if they'd even be willing to staff something like that. That's their private property.
I mean, we do have a bazillion-dollar contract, and that might be a.
Yes, it's a tough one for me. I just think it's gonna be so minuscule. And then I'm, you know, cause I'm kind of sparring with our clerk, you know, on what's a big for a drop off at that window to have all that back up out there. Roundabout and all the beautification for 150 drop offs a day or whatever it is, maybe it's 10. But I'm sure it's more. And so I don't know what is a lot to all of us.
Yeah.
I don't know how many drop offs it is to Pam. I wouldn't know how many containers of this just dinner stuff would be. I mean, would you be all excited for, you know, 135 gallon in a week? I would not be excited for that.
Well,
So-
we want to start small. And then, you know, let's say it goes well, maybe we could tie in the school district and help offer some educational tools to them. Maybe we can even offer like a container or something at the school system where they can, you know, take care of that. And then eventually after the 2-year period, and they kind of take off with it on their own, but just to get them going right from the restaurants or the grocery stores. But right now, we want to start small to test it out.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just wonder if co-mingle is the right way to go. You know, so I've called, and my wife has called several times on our truck that goes by.
Mhm.
And one time we called, the first time, we were told that the same truck took both.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it went into 2 different ones. And so we all think that, right? I personally, with my own eyes, saw it one time where both garbage containers went in the same hopper.
Yeah, sometimes they bring up, sometimes
And-
it, they'll bring one truck that's got sort of the split body.
And how does it get that into the same hole it goes in? You're telling me I can't see what's on top?
Yep, so what happens is, at the very top of the truck, there's like this trap door. So, and they've got a camera on the top of the truck, and so when they're going to empty the garbage,
Okay, I never thought of that. Right,
yep,
you got me
the
there,
doors
you got
open,
me.
they dump it, then when they flip to recycling, that's how that
Right,
works.
yeah.
I know it's confusing to a lot of people, believe me.
Anything else, comments on?
If it's outside the fence, I don't care how small that container is and that bare enclosure thing. I think it's gonna get abused. People are gonna be throwing stuff in there that doesn't
What if
belong.
they
in
don't
there.
even know what it's for? We're not, I mean, not everyone's gonna see that there's a dumpster sitting there. They could just come here and put a couch outside our door too. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think,
they could. Well, they do it. It's just.
We have lights here.
moving on, Fund 21, 26, 27, and 28. We have the zero TIF funds, so these 21 and 26 are our special revenue TIFs. Those are the TIFs that get the increment. So when you collect money on the tax roll, those are the funds where you're gonna see the large revenues, and 27 and 28 are used to pay debt. We had to set those up especially when we created the CDA. And as a reminder, these funds rely on tax increment, not general tax levy. Here is a brief summary of what our TIFs looked like from 2022 to 2023. TIF 1 increased 35,513,700, increase of 10%. So this is equalized values. This is not construction. It's all encompassing. This includes new construction, includes deconstruction, and it includes economic value increase. So if the state thinks that these properties within our TIF increased in value, that's reflected in that dollar change. So TIF 2, so prior year tax increment was $6.5 million. That is the money that the TIF has to pay debt and pay expenditures. TIF 2 went from 68 million to 74 million. increase of 6.4 million, a 9% increase. Prior year tax increment was $685,000.
Just a question. And I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. When now, like, where Inner City Bank was gonna tear down their old building, they built a new one.
Mhm.
The old building was there before it came into this, so I know we did.
That's the
have-
base, yeah.
We did the increment that fund. Improvements is what goes to the tip, I recall. What happens now if they tear down the old bank and they're building a new one?
The total assessed value in the village of Weston will decrease by that amount that was torn away.
Okay, okay. And then when they build a new bank, that'll be all TIF.
That's all diff.
So we're, even where they're building that gym, that building that was, they tore down, we're going to lose that value also.
Will get removed.
And then the TIF will get the new value. Okay,
Well, you have to remember the property, so the one, like,
the land will still.
the land is still in there, yeah.
but not
Mhm.
the- I was wondering, I thought, well, does that get subtracted out of the new building and then it still stays, or does it all go to TIF? And I couldn't think.
Yeah. This one shows the debt that's left in the TIF, so both TIFs have some debt yet. TIF 2 will be done in 2025. TIF 1 goes to 2031. Any questions on TIF? Fund 10 is the general fund. It's has the village's activities and services recorded approximately 1.5 in wages. That heavily relies on taxes and intergovernmental revenues. So far, this is a little different from what I sent out. So I think I sent out with like either a $10,000 or $11,000 surplus. Something got added and it's down to 9.6 or 9.9. Property taxes are increased. That is allowed for our levy limit is $70,705. That is the total allowable levy increase for the village for next year. Other taxes, we have about $8,000. I think a lot of that comes from the payment in lieu of taxes. The big one, $481,958. That is our shared revenue, and it also includes $100,000 of transportation aid. The rest are very minimal changes. The 38,000 you see for miscellaneous, that's a bump up in interest revenue. The 15,200 in intergovernmental, I bumped up the town of Weston, assuming that they're not going to get rid of us. Help to balance the budget. So total percent increase is 6.95%. That's one of the largest we've seen in many years. Any questions on the revenues? Just that brief summary. We'll go to general government expenditures. General government's up 96,000, public safety 313, public works 156, and then culture and rec 25,000. We increased our contingency 5%. So the assumptions here is everything is preliminary yet. So we have room to change if people are interested in moving numbers around. We also have some numbers that aren't in here yet. We have a topic on the board meeting tonight for maintenance for this building. It's an extra $20,000 that would add to our expenditure budget.
Maintenance in what form?
Maintenance in the equipment of this building, the HVAC primarily.
So maintenance contract. Company that would do a periodic routine review of the condition, change filters, those kind of things.
And he physically do it too. What about the
Yes.
cleaning, what about the cleaning contract versus the old?
That was already incorporated in last year's budget.
How's it
'Cause-
different? So I get that.
Maybe $500.
$500
Yeah,
a month.
a month.
More.
Mhm.
And then, and maybe I didn't hear this, or maybe you're not there yet, but the shared revenue is split up how?
What does that mean?
It's still the budget.
Questions? Comments?
Yeah, on what Mark said, I would like to see that shared revenue split or dialed in, so it's not just.
I just like to know what the thoughts of, yeah.
Dave?
At the last slide, it said still needs salary adjustments. Are there any details since we last spoke in August as far as possible salary increases, merit increases, targets for these things?
We talked about it.
I talked about with the budget last time.
Yeah. But the, yeah.
You're talking
Increases
about
in
the
the-
budget wage increases, or are you talking about wage increase that could possibly still happen this year? I would.
Or for the 2024 calendar year.
Or I'll do 4+1.
We are at 4+1. What I was specifically mentioning in up there was so the village had done a salary and wage study for directors and salaried employees. That has not come to the board yet. It is still in the HR committee. So nothing was of that report was reflected in the budget. So I wasn't.
So just in a,
If I may,
Go ahead.
we have a preliminary report that was presented at the last HR committee meeting. We don't have a full report yet.
so the report's being put in a final form from Public Administration Associates. But in terms of, I guess, the preliminary review, it is indicating that the department directors and the people included in the study are under, their compensation is less than their comparable positions in the communities that were compared. There was a list of, I think, about 15 that was used, and you'll see those results in October. The HR committee will be seeing them again in first Monday of October. Just doing a kind of a rough review in terms of where people are in the current pay plan and where they should be relative to an adjustment in the pay plan, because we had not made adjustments in the pay plan for those department directors and deputy directors above a certain grade. If those adjustments are made in that pay plan, those people then would be reflected as being underpaid, even though they have a lot of experience.
I would like to add, though, even with the pay at their certain at the current levels, the compensation plan that we have, the village far exceeds the other ones that we were compared to.
Sorry, what was the comment there?
Repeat that,
Well,
Jeff.
we also took into consideration that not just the pay. Looking at that preliminary report, there were several things that we wanted to get more details on, but the compensation plan that we have in the village does exceed a lot of the other comparable ones that we were looking at. So we didn't feel like the positions that we didn't feel like where they're currently at right now was really that far out or that far out of market. Does that make sense?
If we make adjustments, we won't be. I think we are out of the market right now. I guess that we need to have that report presented. I guess what I had summarized and with respect to general fund impact, if we were to bring people to 100% of the recommended, or I should say to the market rate even on the recommended scale, we're looking at probably $16,000 in the general fund to bring them just to the market range, and reflecting on where people are with experience levels and so forth, that they'd actually be sliding back. So this is really discussing human resources, I think, in terms of how the village makes adjustments on this going forward. And it's a number, I guess, that's not reflected yet in this budget presentation. We just looked at the 4%, 1%, without looking at making these adjustments for where I'll say the exempt staff, those exempt from overtime are compensated right now
You're saying $16,000 to take care of.
in the general fund. Just to get them to 100%. So there should, and then there's other things that happen with this pay plan. So that doesn't reflect probably the amount that we're talking about, the 4% and 1%, but I think we gotta do a little more detail in that. Just
And
understand.
I agree, Mr. Administrator, it's a little premature to talk about it until we get some of those details back from the HR committee, but for budgetary purposes, I would agree that 16,000 would be, for budgetary purposes, a number to consider. Jessica?
Okay,
The other comment?
Versus what last year? Did we have 10 last year? Perfect. And we're talking about.
For everyone, but
Because I am so confused right now. It isn't the part that I can't stand about this. So, I mean, so how many directors, how many exempts do we have? How many?
there were 11 included in this.
Okay, so 11 included in this. So there's no way 16,000 is gonna cover what you feel that this report says. So with all the monies collected, what is the number? Pretty low. If everyone
If
got,
you're
what
looking at all the funds, it's around $45,000.
do you mean all the funds? It's
The
payroll.
ones that she went through up there.
I know, but it's payroll. Yeah, I'm just talking payroll. If we increased all the exempt employees here, what is that number the first year? What is it? You said 45,000?
Just under 46,000 based on the information we had that came back, and that's just to get them at 100% of their
Market rate.
market rate.
Any other questions?
I wondered, Mark, at the August finance meeting, you had mentioned how the Marathon County government was losing people to the private sector. And I just wonder, either have the trustees or the HR committee addressed this as far as, if the private sector is eating Marathon County's lunch, are they gonna start snacking on Weston too?
So what do you say? So the private sector is taken away from Marathon County.
Yeah, so are the private sector gonna also do the same with Weston's employees, so that either the trustees or HR, have they made any discussions regarding?
How do you stay ahead of it? I mean, so how does the school system hold on to their school superintendent when Green Heck Fan hires her? And then how does the city of Wausau stay on with their police chief when Green Heck Fan hires? If Green Heck Fan wants to hire someone of that caliber, they're gone, no matter where you have them. If they want Nate and we pay Nate 20 grand to stay and they want a Nate, he's gone. I mean, that's just what the private sector gets to do. So how do you protect against that? It's the market will bear. I mean, if somebody wants to go to Chicago or New York or settle in a different spot, what do you do? I don't know how to protect that. That's just my one opinion,
I think as
you know.
long as we are in the market, you aren't gonna ever protect completely, but you can maybe at least have a fair chance of retaining if somebody likes what they're doing here in the days. Doesn't really care if they work here or not. Somebody offers them something better.
The last decade or more, I've offered always to where I've worked. Go ahead, market yourself. Think you're close to something, honestly sit down with it. And if it's a better deal, you gotta go, you gotta take it. I can't be selfish. But how do you go up against that? And if they're worth that much, I mean, if one of these 11 or any employee for that matter is worth that much, then we should be fighting. But how do you know what to fight for? It's there. That's a tough one. And we're very fortunate. I mean, I've had some very very candid conversations with people in this group about this. And I don't know this, and, you know, every time, you've been bringing this up for 2 years now. You know, that we gotta talk about this, we gotta guard against this.
Well, we're not,
I know that's.
we're not necessarily competing against the people that wanna move to New York. We're just trying to stay,
That I
just
know.
trying to stay competitive
Yeah.
regional,
Yeah.
local. That's what this compensation study looked at.
I think
It's gotta go to HR.
it is difficult for a private to lead the government because of retirement, health insurance. They are much better than the private sector.
In most.
Yes, yes,
Retirement is one of the key elements of the whole thing, because too many companies just don't have it.
they're 401k, and
Yes,
that's
that's not the same.
not
Not
the
the
same.
same at all.
UK is not even close to
Oh, we must have these chief at what, 53. You know, 53. We could lose Clay at 50. That's coming up in. Right.
It's fine. This is a kind
Just
of,
this meeting.
yeah, but
Everybody be quiet. I can talk.
that's what the budget is, to discuss and talk. So, okay.
So the next slide I got up here is basically showing the trends of the different sources of our revenue and how it's been moving since 2017. It's really interesting to see the intergovernmental revenues. We've kind of increased since 21. And then really increased, obviously this year. The taxes have dropped, obviously. We're $70,000 over last year is what we're looking at. One of the differences for the taxes is we used the joint fire last year. And at this point, I did not put that in there because we don't have the final numbers. If we're not borrowing for capital this year, we don't have anything to put in that line, so. So that is we're pretty fortunate to have that shared revenue go up like it did to assist in balancing our budget this year.
Yes, last year you were threatening.
Well, but you know, I keep saying it and then something always happens and it proves me wrong. And I'm just gonna keep threatening because next year we're not getting that 481,000. So I don't know how we're gonna balance the budget if we can only increase our taxes 100 grand. Like I said before, I remember in 2010 where administrator said we had to cut all departments by 2%. I mean, I was the one going through and cutting each line 2%. We don't do that anymore. It's not really a best practice for budgeting to cut all lines by 2%, but it is something that needs to be done when you need to balance the budget, so.
Now, when you were saying that next year we aren't gonna have that 470,000, we're gonna still get that 400, but not in addition.
Yeah, it's not gonna be increased. I was rereading though, and it looks like the full shared revenue will be increasing by the amount, a projected amount of sales tax increase. So I mean, that's good news if we can get our shared revenue, the full amount, the full, whatever we get, I forget, is it 1.4 now? 1.4 million in shared revenue. Expenditure restraint did go down this year, or is estimated to go down about $15,000. Usually we get, that one has been going up every year that we have qualified for the program, but there is a decrease this year. We do anticipate transportation aid to continue to increase. As you all know, that is dependent upon what we spend for roads and streets, so. Here's a lovely graph, and this is the first year the green bar has grown in more than 10 years. It's interesting. The big blue line is property taxes, other taxes is the red line, intergovernmental green, license permits, fines, charges for services, and miscellaneous as you go up. Assumptions. These are the expenditure summaries. Insurance is at 2% increase. I think I did put in one of my notes to you guys that Corey came back a week ago now, saying that it's 10%. And she was gonna talk to him. I have not heard back what we're finalizing for health insurance. I don't know if anyone else has, but I have not heard back from her. Temper,
I quit bragging on our two, or flat, that's for damn sure, so.
yeah,
First, Renee and I were talking about it a while ago, and then last week, I think I heard it over at a safer meeting. About, I just went, whoa. Maybe I changed that.
yeah, that's insane. So I guess we'll bring, next meeting, we'll bring that back up and see what our thought is.
But quickly, so if you look at last year and year before and year before, what kind of increases we have?
For health insurance, zeros are minimal. It was 2 last year.
Yeah, so a 10 over a span of 4 or 5 years comes down to a 2 or 3. That's still unbelievable.
It is.
It's unbelievable.
Talking to the HF for the state funded insurance, and they're going to 14%.
Yeah, so the county, some people at the county have called me and asked if they can get in to this insurance at work. And
Because the county's in the state one,
yeah,
the city of
I
Weston.
almost don't go through there because I don't want to wreck this.
No was easy.
Yeah, I know, well, I'll pass. Well, I don't know if it's no. You know, so.
The town of Rib Mountain joined the co-op last year.
Okay.
The town of Rib Mountain, or village of Rib Mountain joined the co-op last year. So that our co-op is continuing to grow, but if you look at the CPI, I think health insurance was up 24% last year, and we didn't feel it last year, so I'm sure it's just a ripple effect from last year.
If the roles were reversed and we were asking to jump onto theirs, what do you think the answer would be?
Oh, I don't know. They're just wondering if they can, this ain't our program.
Well, I know,
It's a program that's in this area. You know, I'm sure it also is based on performance of what these companies have done. I only remember a couple big ones that were in there. But it was kind of neat to see them all right around in this area, so I'm sure the performance, you know, the negative, or I should say the smaller losses are holding it down too. You have a couple big ones in there. Look how-
Not just one year.
Right.
So for the total increase for the village, right now we're at 581,602. Of that, $289,000 is village, 197 Everest Metro, and 93.8 for safer. A lot of it's the wages and benefits, about 117,000 wages and benefits. $75,000 was street maintenance. That street maintenance we put back in there after we took it out last year. To balance the budget, we took out $75,000 of street maintenance and shifted over to the CIP fund or the capital fund. So we could pay for it, not using levy dollars. We put it back in there this year. Another of the large increases was elections. We got a big presidential election next year. And we are increasing our newsletter more with more pages, and I think the frequency is the same, but with postage, no.
We're putting it out 4 times.
4 times a year, we're putting it out. So with postage and sun printing doing that, we increased the budget 10,000 for that. And then I have a miscellaneous unidentified 42,000 that's spread across everywhere. CPI, we were talking about CPI because right now we're using the 4-1 for our wages. CPI at the end of August was 3.7, but if you take out food and energy, the CPI was 4.3. the 4% is not too off base what we're using, but that's, I guess, a topic for discussion if the board wants to continue with that percentage in the budget for CPI, or if we want to decrease it.
I guess the number comes out.
It doesn't come out till October 12th. So yeah, it just came out.
There and 12 there and then you might get them, I guess, yeah.
Do you know what the state's using for expenditure?
That's not out yet. I mean, we are really in the preliminary stages. Some of the numbers aren't finalized yet, like transportation aids, we don't get finalized to the end, but we've been maxing out every year, so we just put a dollar amount in there. Expenditures by function, this is just another look at it with the changes. Fund 81, I want to touch on this a bit. This accounts for our farmers market and our scholarship CD. We haven't really been offering us any scholarships with interest rates being so low. We tried to keep the CD whole and grow with our $20 because we can't spend the base amount of the CD. We can only spend what we earn in interest. So there hasn't been any interest earned for a while. Hopefully next year, the next couple of years, we can get that CD locked in at a larger interest rate. In Fund 81, we did add $3,500 for our market manager position. This was discussed earlier in the year that we wanted to hire someone for this position to be more active in the market. We also, in the minutes I was reviewing, there was mention of increasing the fees. We did in this budget as proposed. We have fee increases from $125 to $150. Is there any other, I don't have the numbers up here. This is really, I just want to see, this is what I have in there. Do you have any thoughts? Yes, on the right track? No, not on the right track, more or less for this market manager position. I'm not sure what we were all thinking when we were talking about it last time.
So who runs Wausau's farmers market?
A board of people.
Yeah, it was like the Wilkies.
But not the city.
No.
So why do we feel we need to run ours? Just a question.
You have a lease or agreement with
Lockery,
Lockery over there for that property.
there's a bone that we have that we, I mean, are we better than at that running it and then hiring someone, or is someone else?
Yes.
I know you feel that way, I know, and asking Valerie on something that she partakes in it, you guys are champions, you guys are very passionate about what you do. I'm just questioning, it takes away from other stuff that we're doing.
Get a market manager position. They wouldn't have to be there. Wouldn't have to. But yeah, that has always been a concern of mine when market first started out, is that I thought that we were putting a lot of staff time in it, and it should be able to run on its own. Now, with the revenues covering any expenses, I just don't feel that we should be involved in that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we electrified it, but the gazebo, we did everything. We put the garbage in there, we put that thing up in the air for a little shade, and the benches, the lighting, I'm sure we did all that stuff. I'm sure we put the gravel in, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure everything there is done on us. And any kind of maintenance is also done on us. So, do we even put all that together at the end of the day? What does it cost to keep the kayak? You think of those things, and it's some of these expenses are everywhere, and you can't actually keep track of it because it's all so separated. I just wonder what it costs. And, I think I saw something that somebody got back to the board that said Renee was doing 2 hours a week in there, and not a chance. Not with what you know. Not with how you were just visibly thrilled to talk about that, and that's a good thing. But you were so excited, you knew every vendor, you knew when they come in, you knew when they're out. Now I'm going 2 hours a week. We need 10 more Renees. You know, there's just no way, so.
Well, it's a community thing and people really like it and I wanna make
Yeah,
sure
it's
the
exciting.
community,
It's the fun stuff we're doing. I get it.
you know,
I'd
is
love to
happy
get
with
rid of
what
all
we're
the
doing
crap.
and that they
bad
keep
stuff.
coming. We've taken a lot of vendors from Weston, a lot of customers from Weston because they like our atmosphere and what we have to offer.
Yeah, I didn't know those flowers could be grown here. I'm, every time I go by there, I'm just shocked. That they're growing right up the Ryan Street, right in there. I just can't believe it. Anyway. And I hear really, really good things about it all the time, so I'm not trying to take nothing away.
But I would like to see where, you know, what our revenues are, that there's things that, you know, the market manager, I think is a real good idea.
If we can strap her down and not let her out of this building and take her phone away for 4 hours a day. That's the only way we're gonna do it. And I know it's funny, it is funny. But if you're gonna wanna really do that, you're really gonna be excited, oh, I gotta get down there, I gotta see what's going on.
Like Sean does with the pool.
What's that? Yeah, well, I'm sure, you know, I don't. So, yeah.
So it's I don't know if you remember looking at the budget, but this is the budget that has the market manager in it. We typically budget for about 17,768, and we're proposing a 2,100 or approximately $22,000 budget this year. So it's not increasing it very much. I think we told you before, we were giving gift cards to the market manager previously. So we took all the gift cards out and we'd just be giving her a salary, which would be running through payroll.
That's, I mean, that's the right thing,
Right.
you know, and it's above board. Credit cards are, you know, probably fun for everybody, but it's not the right thing to do when she's actually doing some value and stuff. For me.
How close are our revenues versus our expenses on that?
Well, here's the budget. Right now, we're projecting an $1,100 loss, but we're very cautious when we budget our expenditures. This year, we're estimating a $2,000 increase. We budgeted a $200 increase, so.
For expenditures, the porta shitters? What do we have for expenses? Just the porta potty, right? 'Cause
With the
if
porta potty,
it cuts the grass, right? Cause that's
not our land, so we don't pay for the grass cutting. We do the porta potty. Here's what's on the budget. This operating supplies, all others, that's our tokens. So it's a revenue and expense. See the $12,000 revenue, and then we have a $12,000 expense. That's our tokens. They're supposed to zero out, but I'm guilty. I have tokens from last year, so
It's not necessarily like an expense. I mean, it is.
we have to book it that way. So we book it as an expense and a revenue.
It's not like we're paying a bill.
I understand that.
So I don't have cash, right? I don't have cash, so I use my credit card to buy tokens from you or from
The
this
market
new-
manager.
Market
the market
manager.
Okay. But chances are, they're not all being spent.
Yep, they're sitting in my purse. It could be lost.
Yeah. So they're actually physically buying them from us. That's solidly always coming in. What do these little tokens cost already?
What are they? Just wood chips?
Okay, so they're 10 cents a quarter or whatever.
No, $5. $5. $5 tokens.
You can have a $5 token.
No, I've gotta have them traded. So who's making them?
Oh.
Oh, the wooden nickel company is the one who makes it.
Okay, alright.
Um,
And they're exclusive to us, with our design or something.
Yeah, so initially, it was a grant from the county, so I got my machine for free and all my tokens.
Oh, you make them yourself?
I like order them, but like, for, I don't know, 12 years, I didn't have to buy any. And then when COVID hit, and they like quadrupled people's food stamps, then I ran out of tokens. And so I had to order, so I spent like $500. And then that's been a whole new, and now this year they went back down to the normal stuff for food stamps.
So are people looking for an ATM and they can't find it and they realize they can buy these?
Correct, so all of a sudden you're calling me and it's like, oh my God, look at all these moms said, oh, you know, I wanna get a euro and oh, look at it, I wanna get some cinnamon rolls and
Right.
they don't have enough.
Did we ask about the fee? Is the fee included? No.
Yes,
Oh, so they pay more
well, actually, we charge a fee. It's $1
on top.
for every $25.
Okay, that's 4%.
So, I mean, so we
Usually
don't
3.5%.
lose money
Yeah, 3.5%.
on that.
Alright, we're done.
Is there a job description for a market manager?
What was that?
Is there a job description for market manager?
We do not have a job description, no.
I think it should be, this individual know what's expected from him.
Yeah.
Should or shouldn't be doing, right?
If we can do that.
I'm sure you could.
Well,
You have done
I
it,
think
you know,
actually
like-
would work anywhere if Renee wasn't involved. If Renee's involved, then I think I'll throw it out. Because you're gonna be talking all the time. You're gonna be telling you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. You just are, you know, you can't help it.
You know,
Yeah.
little while
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe you gotta start, compiling some bullet points. And then after maybe the first season, put a thing together. This is what they're gonna be, because it's gonna change for a while, you know.
Yeah.
But hopefully it keeps you from running back and forth or somebody else running back and forth. And this person that's there anyway. And she also gets a deal on her thing, on her site.
Mhm.
Right?
Well, because we have it on hers too, especially because some of the other produce vendors, if they would happen to have the token thing, maybe they may buy all the produce there and then other people will get upset where she's more of a neutral vendor.
What does she sell?
She has like dishcloths and towels and, you know.
Does she have a sign? Get your tokens here.
Yes, we have a sandwich board sign, says tokens, you know, available here and stuff.
Isn't this an HR issue?
Oh.
Hiring a manager to,
Well, we already got this person.
We already have it.
We already have the person.
And it's just the budget for
Everything
it.
was just like,
It's a
we give
budget.
her compensation
We're
or the
probably
gift
just
cards.
asking more questions we should do right now for the budget purposes.
Moving on.
This is like the time.
Okay, last slide. Fund 60, 61, 63, these are the utility funds, approximately, I know it's more now, 850,000 of wages.
Your screen.
Oh, sorry.
So just real quick, Yi just sent me a text. Barb and Keith are very hard to hear. But Jess and I are the best. So just, you know, and Jess, I can hear you better today. I don't know if you're talking.
Oh,
She's got
yeah,
a
microphone. Yeah,
I'm not even, my mic's not, I don't have mine on.
mine is.
Pretty loud anyway.
So anyway, $850,000 of wages are recorded in these funds and they rely on utility charges to pay the expenses. If you looked at the actual funds, we are looking at losses, even though we're increasing. Like right now, we got water approved at an 8% increase. That's getting implemented mid-October, and stormwater is getting increased from 1250 to 17. And that is also mid-October, hopefully. But that's all I have for these.
what about the Everest Metro and Safer budgets? What? Like the Safer was up, what, 8% Is that the aerial?
Is that?
Yeah, I don't.
So those budgets are handled by the Safer Board of Directors, and the Finance Committee handles Harvest Metro. I do work with them. That's why I do have the numbers with me. Safer was preliminary adopted at the meeting last Tuesday. Harvest Metro has not had their meeting yet.
They still affect us.
Yes,
Oh, definitely.
that's why I have the dollar amounts in there, but I guess I don't have much comment on them.
Asking is, what are we looking at for Safer?
What are we looking at for Safer? Let me get there. Yeah.
What?
Should have been around 90,000.
Safer is 93,868 and Everest Metro's almost 198,000.
Those are increases.
Yes.
And of the 90,000 for safer, was that, how much of that was that aerial?
0.
Zero
These are only operations.
operating.
Yes.
You promise to be good?
I'll try.
Chief and deputy chief tried 2 meetings in a row to try to cancel the aerial stuff. We said no.
Okay.
You okay?
Oh. Want me to be honest?
Oh, I know where you are, I know, and I'm being a jerk, but, I am, yeah, well, knock it off, I'm not always a jerk. She says, you're always a jerk, I said, no, I'm not.
So
But he, they
the
did-
nine, the
they did
90
put
was, the 90 is what then, chief? Is that just increases in wages and
wages and- yes.
increases in operation?
Last majority of this week. Yep, overtime,
And,
overtime is a big issue because we're never staffed. full.
and then Everest was 100?
No,
It was $198,000.
I'm sorry?
$198,000.
98 was the increase
And
for the
It's-
metro.
it's basically the union contract last year, they approved 6% increases 2 years in a row.
6 and a 4.
That obviously both will go up if our health insurance, because everyone's on the same plan. So health insurance is a very major expense for all three entities.
That's the, I remember reading about it, but I didn't. Have you gotten any increases on ambulance for like Medicaid people, or is that still in the wind somewhere?
No, the politicians took their victory lap during re-election time, and now it just has been sitting there. The law passed in 2021, but we haven't seen a penny yet.
Sorry, I never do a victory laps on that, just an honest person. But we had a really, really good presentation last week. And Deputy Eric Lane actually had it brought in. I don't think Chief even knows. I just learned it just as hard. But anyway, I'm just kidding.
I didn't mean you.
I'm just
I
kidding.
meant
Well, I didn't
the
mean you. I didn't mean you either. I meant the different chiefs. But anyway, this guy came in and he was explaining the ambulance. What do you call that service?
Life Quest.
Life Quest. And I'm telling you, it was a smack in the face. And all we get is between $400 for one of the Medicare or Medicaid, and the other one is just under $500. We bill almost $1,100. So 74% of our bills are those two categories, 74%. And we can't get a penny more. So all we're trying to get with that $1,100 is the 13%. That's what we're trying to get. And then there's this 2 or 3% that says, see you later. No way.
The Medicaid is.
It's unbelievable. So
But Medicaid was the worst. Medicare wasn't necessary. I think Medicare kind of built it. Medicaid was just, forget it.
Just real quickly, Medicaid, there was state law passed in 2021. That's this GEMT program, Ground Emergency Medical Transport. It stands for, it's a federal program that will help us get more money back for Medicaid patients to bring them up to about what we get for Medicare, which is kind of what you're referring to. Again, passed in 2021, DHS was supposed to come up with language to make all this happen. And now we're going into 2024 and we still have not seen a penny of it. And they don't have an answer for me of what we'd like.
I kept wanting to ask about that. I kept forgetting.
But I will tell you one thing, what we signed last week, or no, the meeting before, we signed a mutual aid agreement with Wassa. It ain't signed yet, but they actually came to the table, and I was thrilled to death that we have an ambulance shared, and we also have the aerial shared, right?
Yeah, we're providing an ambulance to them at their structure fires. They're providing an aerial to us in our structure.
And it was determined why the chief and the deputy wanted the aerial to be sent back, is because Rothschild, which we kind of couldn't believe, they're great neighbors, they bought one. And we just didn't think they were gonna buy one, and we wanted to try to sign in with them, with ours, or we could get rid of ours, and then sign in with theirs and have a contract. Because Croninwater bought one right out of the blue, right off of a lot in Appleton for 1.8 million. And we've called them several times and they can't staff it. So There's 5 aerial trucks in here. And I believe you guys believe there should be 4. With ours coming, Greg. With ours coming, there'll be 5. I think you guys believe that 4 is enough. 4 is plenty. Yep. So, anyway, that's enough of that, but we had a really good discussion. Okay. Let the record show that Steve Cronin arrived extremely late at 5:45.
I called.
I guess, and they all know that.
You guys a stiff desk, Keith?
Yeah.
That's right. I was hoping you'd stop home before you came.
Yeah. I said you were. On your way, it was a little bit. Watch out. I probably a little bit too much information. All right, so where are we now?
We're at just that.
Okay. Oh, would that answer your 2 questions? On EMPD and safer.
That'll be fine for tonight.
I guess, does anybody have any questions about public works or anything there? I know Jessica mentioned it's 156,000. Most of that's trying to get street maintenance back where it was previous years. We have the $95,000 increase in transportation aid, so that covers a good chunk of that.
I budgeted $100,000 increase.
$100,000.
Yeah.
All right, I go with them to the 2023.
All the yellow lights flashing on campus today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Hughes Avenue too got the overlay
I
and
know I jumped
just
on
those
you.
areas where the blacktop was coming off. That was
Very, very
sweet.
nice. There's a technician there working in the box. Everyone thought he was a cop, so everyone like, well,
Perfect.
I do have a public works question. So I see there's like $21,000 or $24,000 in irrigation. What can you tell me about that? For Schofield Ave and Community Center and all these other sprinklers in the street? I don't know which.
Yeah, so in general, that's the irrigation in our landscaped areas, generally in, I guess, TIF 1, TIF 2 areas. It's, the cost mainly is for the cost of water. A fair amount of the systems are, I guess, are decommissioned. They haven't been turned on in a while. Sean probably has better info on that, but.
We do have started to repair costs, obviously, every year. We take care of winterizing and most of the repairs during the season. But like Michael said, most of the cost is the water itself. We do adjust the water spring, fall, and obviously this year was quite dry, so we were watering more than anticipated. They do have rain sensors on them too, so they that more than half-inch rain. They do reset automatically each week. But we have adjusted recently just due to cooler weather, et cetera. So there are obviously some costs there for obviously the water and sewer. Electricity repairs. For 5,000 budgeted, 4,000 budgeted. So those are your main costs for irrigation. There's no sprinklers at home, nor here, no. And the sprinkler, I mean, it looks pretty green there, it looks pretty decent all year actually. Well, firstly, the public safety building was, landscaping was installed 2 years ago. We manually watered all the plants, shrubs, some of the grass areas. We got a little better weather, so it's even better than this facility. So it helped us establish that. Grass we literally need a year, literally trees and shrubs, we are still watering some of the stress trees over there, at least briefly, just to maintain them. As you can see, the landscape is thriving over there. Despite doing that additional. We water some trees today, still water our annual flowers, depending on the weather, once, twice, 3 times a week. It was very dry and hot at times this year, so that varies there. It definitely helps our plants thrive by doing that extra maintenance.
And is it not here where we have the sidewalk? I mean, it's actually a path. Do we have a curb, then grass, and then the sidewalk, right? On this side? The sidewalk isn't right on the curb, is it?
No. Well, right over front here.
Yeah.
There is some areas with grass, So right out front here, you would have just a sidewalk and then landscape of rock.
But from the curb to the sidewalk is what?
20 feet.
No, it can't be that. Here?
Out here.
Yeah, it is. Is there any thought that that's gonna be a tough area with all the salt and all the different things thrown up for the road for snow? Should we just rock that whole darn thing?
The reason it's this wide is because the county.
Oh, I don't care how wide it is.
Yep.
I think this looks like a southwestern type building, like the rock we can be. And only. That's all. And I feel the same thing about School Avenue. I think it should be painted green or colored concrete or the turf we have on this intersection right up here. Because right now we're watering it and cutting it. You know, it's a lot of work. But I see those people out there, I mean, they're often, all on angles. Weed trimming the whole bit all summer long, just a thought.
And we've talked about minimizing our maintenance areas.
Yeah.
Because we have some high maintenance areas that should be changed out. Some of the brick areas should talk about going with color factory or turf. Reducing the mulch areas, actually to change it to turf, because you can't make the plants survive. Why are we putting plants back in there? Why not just mow it, because we can easily maintain mow areas versus spraying, mulching, replacing plants. So that's all been in the process. That was part of the, when we redid Schofield Avenue, we reduced the amount of plants, we added grass areas, reduced, just made it more easy to maintain. And then reducing the planters, the bollards, some of the stuff out there that we know continually gets hit. I'm sure everybody's noticed the ones on Weston Avenue that got hit. I put in my report the last 2 months. And that's an ongoing issue. Yes, their insurance will eventually cover it, but we're still going through the work to do that. So we submit a claim, and then, then our insurance company goes after them for subrogation, and then it's a whole process to get everything covered. And it's step time.
All right, let's move on. So we're going to be done by 6. So. You're all ears.
Oh, I think, does anyone have anything else to say? Does anyone have anything else to say on the 2024 budget for this meeting?
The shared revenue,
Yes.
my understanding that my interpretation of how the $380,000 was supposed to get primarily for police and fire. And it looks like we just kind of threw it in the bucket. And
It has to go to the general fund.
yeah.
And the general fund includes $200,000 increase in police and $93,000 in fire. It also can be used for streets. I am willing to do whatever else you want with it, but right now, I don't know how else you would fund anything else if it's not going to be used as presented.
The legislature. I think you did an outstanding job with what you had. I was just looking for, is there another way that we can make this stuff work? Keith alluded to earlier that, well, gosh, we might have this $46,000 additional salary shortfall that we've got to come up with money for. And that's why I looked at, okay, so we have $21,000 in irrigation. We don't necessarily have time to send guys out. We don't have the staff to cut the grass anyways. It's 9 inches when it gets cut in some spots. I'm not faulting you. When it rains and you got a bazillion other acres to cut, right? And you're down a guy, because Michael took them. But if we're watering that grass, it's grow faster. So if we can steal $21,000 from that, and we're gonna change it to turf, or we're gonna change it to concrete, or we're gonna change it to other dead mulch anyways. I don't know. I think there's more. This could get looked at deeper. I personally think. You also have thoughts on the shared revenue? Should that get used for police and fire? Or?
I would like to primarily see it go to police and fire as well. I understand that we may have to make some cuts in other places, but.
Because they have large increases. You've got what, 93,000 and what'd you say, 193, 199 for police? Like, okay, well,
the increase for police and fire is $291,834.
So the legislation did include public works in the intended recipients of the shared revenue.
But how's it work?
How is what
All
word?
three, every time I've heard about it, it's like public safety.
All three were.
Yeah, all three, Public Works was involved.
Yeah, there's already a lot of fire departments that are fighting back because the vast majority of communities, especially smaller communities with volunteer fire departments, they're spending 90% of it plus on roads. The majority of it's not being spent on public safety.
Which isn't the case here.
No, not here, but a lot of small communities are. I just read an article.
Anything else? Other comments?
Are they adding any police officers for next year?
No, there's, you can, this is to keep the same funding that we have, but I don't know if anything happen. And at the last MPD meeting, what was the number, Mark? 42, so I think there was 11 officers that they need to get similar staffing levels to our neighbors.
Just trying to get 3, get full shift. But at the same time, we haven't been fully staffed since 2016. That's how hard it is to get off.
I was thinking that's not because of budget.
Yeah,
that's
I know,
because-
but our 2 new hires right now are in academies that we're actually paying. First time ever.
Is it not because of Bart budget though, Bart? I'm just asking, because put yourself in their shoes. If you can come here and run ragged because we're short 11 officers on a shift versus go to Marathon County and you get paid more and you're not running all over the place and being pulled in 13 different directions. I don't know what reasonable person wouldn't.
Well, we've got fire people, EMS people that are working weeks on end. And the same thing, the overtime is being picked up by the same few police department.
It's the same concept.
That's what I mean.
But if they would be at full staff, they would not be twice.
But I know that, we've got an incredible officer from Merrill. And he just couldn't do it anymore. He just said flat out, I can't work like this anymore. And so we took a job with tech.
But I mean, that's because of the staffing level, not.
You can't increase the staffing level unless you have budget to do that. If you have budget for 14 more firefighters, you might not have 14 guys apply tomorrow, but you could bring them on at some point. Right now, if you have 3 guys knock on your door, well, maybe now is a bad idea, but because you're down, but if you had 6 guys knock on your door, you couldn't take all 6.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, then, timeline.
I guess right now I'm hoping to see if I can get quorum for September 28th at 6 o'clock. That would be our next budget meeting. A more comprehensive budget, filling in some of the holes and giving you a better idea of where we could end up.
Thursday,
That would be a Thursday, September 28th at 6.
that's a yes for Maloney.
Let me know so we can have quorum. I'm hoping to get more people there.
That should be a yes for me too.
I can also go.
And let me know if you have any specific topics you want me to present, because I kind of didn't get a lot of feedback tonight. So I'll just keep going as I'm going. And I got a lot of what you guys are talking about are service discussions. And that's something that's not me.
Right.
So that's something that has to be discussed on the board. If we need to cut services, move services, what we want to do, because what I presented for revenues, that those are our revenues. And when we talk about next year, eliminate that surplus of $381,000 of shared revenue. And anything that you have for operations, say it needs to increase 5% next year. Well, we're not going to get a 5% bump anywhere. We talk about referendum a lot, but as we all know, it takes a process to get through a referendum. It also takes a yes vote. So that's something that needs to be talked about too. That's all I got to say on that. But yeah, I'd appreciate if people let me know if they can make it.
You said 6 o'clock
On the 20th.
Yeah, we'll send out a meeting request and see if we can get some responses.
Real quick, 45,000 out of tourism is put into credit.
40.
How much?
40.
All right, because it's a tourism thing. Is our farmer's market a tourism thing? Why not?
It could be. It was in the past, we needed to plug the hole for the pool. We're gonna need to do that again. That will be a discussion at the next meeting, but
Can we throw 10 in there from tourism?
we could.
I mean, we're 20.
So that comes from the village funds. We send so much, has to be used.
25%.
Yeah,
Why not?
okay,
So it's our 30 is our 30, and then our 25 is our 25. and
okay.
You give the largest amount in the area at 45% to the CBA, to CBV. Say that, I know I think I said.
So you said send 10 to the farmer's market. What are we gonna use it for? Right now, we're kind of balanced.
For tourism,
Yeah,
tourism and those little happy months, it's a little different. I'm sorry, I started, so happy months. Yeah, okay. Used to give those out, I used to throw right back at us, and I used to just laugh, thinking, oh yes, that's $2 more. Okay. I mean, just a thought, we can talk about it next Thursday.
okay.
Just I should be able to make it at 6 o'clock. Otherwise I was having a struggle. But
We got Cronin and we got installed myself and Mark. We have a farm at least.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so anything else then for finance? Our next meeting will be Thursday, September 28th at 6 p.m. And topics for future meetings. 2024 budget, debt service and capital funds. Any remarks from staff?
No,
Any remarks from committee members?
I think we should look at that tourism knowledge.
Okay. Any announcements? Okay, then make a motion to adjourn the finance committee.
So moved.
Motion by Ethan. Someone, okay. On the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? So carried.
I'll make the same motion to adjourn the village board. Second. Second. We need a first, so you're doing first. Did someone say
Oh,
first?
I thought you said you were making the motion.
I need it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, motion.
Motion by Cronin, second by Pincinel. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Adjourned at 6:02. All right, we need a